It starts with that familiar jolt in the chest, the kind that makes you sit forward and rewind just to be sure you heard it right. The Toronto Blue Jays didn't just make a move, they shook the table, and suddenly the entire outfield conversation has taken on a life of its own. Welcome back to the Blue Jays Report, and before we go any further, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so if this is your first time here and you enjoy the ride, hit that subscribe button now, drop a like, and let's get into why this story could be far bigger than it looks. When the Toronto Blue Jays completed the trade for Jesus Sanchez, it felt sudden, bold, and slightly chaotic in the best possible way. Sanchez arrived from the Houston Astros in exchange for Joey Loperfido, and on the surface it looked like a straightforward response to the devastating injury suffered by Anthony Santander. But the more you stare at it, the more you realize this trade didn't solve a problem so much as create a new one. Sanchez is a force of nature against right-handed pitching. When righties are on the mound, his bat practically hums with menace, the ball screaming off it as if personally offended. Against left-handers, though, it's a different story entirely. The production falls off a cliff. It's not subtle, it's not debatable, and it leaves the Blue Jays with an everyday left fielder who can only be trusted in half the matchups they'll face over a long season. That's where the rumor mill starts to spin, and one name keeps floating back to the surface like it never really left. Randal Grichuk, a former Blue Jay, a fan favorite, a right-handed hitter who made a career out of punishing left-handed pitching. The idea of a reunion feels almost too neat, too logical, as if the roster itself is quietly nudging Ross Atkins and whispering the answer. Grichuk's reputation against southpaws isn't built on nostalgia or selective memory, it's rooted in real, punishing numbers. Just 2 seasons ago, he posted a 139 WRC+ against left-handed pitching, meaning he was nearly 40% better than league average in those matchups. That's not a platoon bat scraping by, that's genuine impact. Yes, his most recent season with Kansas City was rough on the surface, but underneath, the ball was coming off his bat harder than ever, suggesting the skills never left, they simply went dormant. This is where roster construction becomes less about names and more about roles. Kansas City asked Grichuk to be something he isn't, forcing him into matchups that exposed his weaknesses. Toronto wouldn't do that. In Toronto, he wouldn't need to be a savior or an everyday fixture. He'd be a specialist, unleashed precisely where he thrives, allowed to do what he's always done best. Imagine the rhythm of it. Against right-handed starters, Sanchez takes his place in left field, swinging freely, knowing the matchup is in his favor. When a left-hander appears, Grichuk steps in, calm and familiar, a solution rather than a gamble. It's not flashy roster juggling, it's clarity. And clarity wins games over 162 of them. Some will point to Davis Schneider as the answer, but the numbers complicate that narrative. Schneider actually produced better against right-handed pitching, and while his versatility is valuable, relying on him as the primary antidote to lefties feels like forcing the issue. Depth is important, but precision is better. Then there's Nathan Lucas, another left-handed bat whose own struggles against left-handed pitching muddy the waters further. The more left-on-left matchups you stack, the easier life becomes for opposing managers late in games. Introduce Grichuk into the equation, and suddenly everything snaps into focus. Roles are defined, weaknesses are hidden, options expand rather than collide. Financially, the beauty of it is simplicity. Grichuk isn't chasing a long-term deal. He's a veteran coming off a down year, likely looking for a 1-year opportunity to reestablish his value. That's low risk for Toronto and potentially enormous reward. Add in familiarity with the city, the clubhouse, and the expectations, and you've got a player who can hit the ground running rather than learning on the fly. Even insiders are hinting at the logic. Mitch Bannon has spoken about flexibility within the roster, and while versatility has its place, there's something to be said for clean, elegant solutions. Sanchez has already been described by Atkins as a regular option against right-handed pitching, a player they don't want to limit. Those words matter. They tell you the plan is already written. Time, however, is the enemy. Spring training has begun, routines are forming, and every day that passes makes integration harder. Grichuk remains unsigned, the door still open, the fit still obvious. All it takes is a phone call and the courage to trust what the roster is quietly telling you. So here's the question. Do the Blue Jays complete the puzzle they've just started, or do they leave a glaring seam exposed? If you want to see Randal Grichuk back in a Blue Jays uniform, hit that like button, drop a comment with your take, and make sure you're subscribed to the Blue Jays Report, because as spring training rolls on, this story feels far from finished. The pieces are moving, the answers are there, and sometimes the smartest move is the one that feels inevitable.